Going on, everyone? Welcome to week 17 of Legit's Fired Up. I'm your host, Too Stupid to Win, and joined as always by Mars, Utah. How we doing this week?
Oh, fantastic over here. Like he got hit with that blizzard last week, so unfortunately we couldn't hit the folks with all those wacky picks from last week's interesting week. But yeah, we'll see what we can do here.
Yeah, do apologize for last week. That crazy weather gave me some internet problems. It just wasn't getting a stable signal. But when you got 60-mile-per-hour winds coming through, it was a wild weekend to say the least. And then yesterday it was 60 degrees. So figure it out, minus 20 something wind chill last week. And then this week it's 60 degrees outside. Gotta love
Lovely Cleveland.
it. Yes, sir. We do have a interesting week 17 to talk about. Really, I had challenges trying to figure out good plays this week. Even though you have, there's no buys, everybody's playing this week. A lot of you know, playoff potential. Some people are trying to get seeds, trying to get first round buys. Other people are trying to sneak into the playoffs, but yet it's still a challenging week.
Yeah, this new schedule, still adjusting to it with the 18-week schedule and a lot of odd things. Teams not needing to play this week and resting their guys for next week really changes the landscape quite a bit.
Yeah, and that's what I find interesting too. Is usually it's people rest their players in the last week of the season, but they're like, "Oh, I don't have to worry about this week, but I got to worry about next week." That just blows my mind that it's regardless of what happens this week, next week's more important. So,
Yeah. My Titans really just threw the game on Thursday because they only have to win next week, which is bizarre. And the scenario with the one bye team gives some of the teams a lot less to play for, and really changes the end of the year here more than I thought with the schedule changes.
yeah. So we'll do our best this week to try and as always, we try to give you which legit mementos you can pick up in your shops that will give you the chance at the most fire stats. So that's what we try to do here on Legit's Fired Up, sharing
Yep.
our football knowledge and helping you identify the proper targets.
I was gonna say I took my own advice last week that we didn't get to give out to you guys and bought myself a Derrick Henry memento that has 4 fire stats.
Nice.
I was
That,
able to do that.
yeah.
Um,
And our boy Tony Pollard's not on the slate this week for us. He played Thursday night.
yeah, he actually didn't even play either, but yeah.
No, he didn't. He was out. So that is true.
This might be the first time we don't recommend him.
Absolutely. Injury report. If you're a quarterback in the NFL, you're pretty much injured right now. That's the way it seems. Got a lot of people out. Looks like Lamar Jackson's going to miss again. Jalen Hurts is going to miss again. Arizona's down to their third string quarterback. Oakland's pulled Derek Carr, so they're not even having that dude practice. They're just like, go enjoy the holidays at home. You're out, my friend.
Yeah, really bizarre. We can't even get Colt McCoy on the field nowadays.
No. Um, Tua's out for the concussion again. I'm as a person, I'm just concerned for his overall. Like he can't continue to take these headbangers like this.
Yeah, what's that? Officially 3 or 4 this year? That is really concerning.
Officially three, I believe, or they said second. I don't know. It's weird, very weird what they have going on there. Um, and
Yeah,
then, as always, we do have the injury link in the description of the videos. Definitely, you always want to click on that, see who's out, see who's in, because you don't want to be purchasing legits of somebody that doesn't even participate. I mean, you don't want to be purchasing mementos of a player that's not even in the game. That's a waste of a lot of UpX.
yeah, and yeah, the injury report is quite extensive this week. I was giving it a peruse, so yeah, definitely follow Too Stupid's recommendation and do your homework on that.
And they've ruled Antonio Gibson, the running back for the Washington Commanders, out already. So that shapes up their backfield there. Um, that's the only other big name that jumps out besides the quarterbacks. Any big names that are out that are
I think you really covered it. The quarterbacks is quite interesting, and yeah, just some scattered stuff around, but a lot of the big names are still out there or recovering or just out for the season for a while so far.
Yeah.
And yeah, really interesting point spreads here by Las Vegas this week.
Yeah, and you're into week 17, so they have them pretty dialed in now. There's still plays to take advantage of. As you can see this week, like who would have thought at the beginning of the season that the week 17 game with the highest point total would be the Chicago Bears and the Detroit Lions?
Yeah, the joke for the first month was that the Bears were running an offense out of 1932, and all of a sudden here they are at the end of the season in the highest point spread game.
Yeah. And the Buffalo Bills Cincinnati Bengals one, I think is going to have a lot of explosiveness to it because there's the potential of Cincinnati ending up with the number 1 seed overall in the AFC. So that will be a hard fought game. The Denver Broncos Kansas City Chiefs, I believe, is going to be pretty lopsided there on the Kansas City side, but they do have a new interim head coach. So who knows? Those are always different games when a coach gets fired and somebody steps in.
Yeah, as we saw with the Colts when they brought on Jeff Saturday, they, like you said, they do seem when they get the new coach to kind of hit a peak for at least one week before the new energy falls off.
And that could be a sleeper. Hopefully Kansas City's not overlooking them, but from a star potential there on the Denver Broncos, Jerry Jeudy's still missing. Cortland Sutton's questionable, and they benched Wilson, right? Or is he hurt?
I believe he was hurt, and I think he's back this week.
Yeah, he's not on the injury report.
Yeah, so I think he is playing. Not that you would recommend, or I would recommend using him. And yeah, the Chiefs do with the only one team on the bye. They do still have something to play for here. So yeah, it should be motivated to put up some points there, at least on the Kansas City side.
Yeah, Wilson is off the injury report, so that'll be interesting. And as Mark says, I would not recommend him because he is having an awful year. And then the Minnesota Vikings, Green Bay Packers, that could be a wild game in itself too. But they are playing in Green Bay, and it is December. Well, it will be January in Green Bay. So
never know what you're going to get with those Vikings. They've been responsible for pretty much all of the most wild games this season, one way or another. So yeah, lots of points out of those guys and entertaining games as well.
All right, moving on to offense, to the quarterback. I don't see it. I have nothing for you on quarterback this week. I don't see anybody hitting 300 yards, 100 QB rating, and 2 touchdowns and no interceptions.
Yeah, it's as we've said, it's quite a wasteland with all the injuries and people resting people like Derek Carr possibly to trade. I did dig pretty deep, and the best I can come up with for a name guy is possibly Kirk Cousins for the Vikings against Green Bay. The weather, and the environment not too good, but also I think that Justin Jefferson and by default Kirk Cousins could be pretty motivated. It looks like they want to try to hit that 2,000-yard receiving mark for the season for Justin Jefferson to be the first one ever. So could be a high-scoring game. I feel like those guys are going to sling it. Really, the only name guy I see with some potential. And then other than that, going down the board to some possible sleepers and backups, maybe Gardner Minshew for the Eagles against New Orleans. He was slinging it pretty good last week. Seems like he's got something to prove, maybe to lock up a job for next season. And Mike White for the New York Jets is back against Seattle with one of the leakiest defenses in the league. The Jets' passing offense seems to be totally different when he's at quarterback than Zach Wilson. So those are really the only potential I see out there at all.
Yeah, those are. Yeah, I can't disagree there.
Far from locks, but they have some potential. Guys with something to prove.
And then depending on which Justin Herbert shows up, they're playing again, and then which Rams defense shows up too. So really dependent there.
Oh yeah, then on the injury front, Austin Eckler is not playing this week. They are resting him, so that could throw a wrench in the works for the Chargers, and he is a big pass catcher as well for Herbert. So
Yeah. Um, on the running backs.
yeah, anybody jumping out at you there?
I think Brian Robinson, with the news that Antonio Gibson's out against the Browns and their defense has just been so horrible against the rush that Brian Robinson would have a good shot at it this week.
I agree with you there. Yeah. I also have marked out James Conner. Arizona is down to their third string, and he's been coming on a little bit. Might not get you that 20-yard rush, but I think he might have some potential. And as a sleeper, I like Tyler Algier on the other side of that game for the Falcons. They seem to have kind of passed the torch to him in the last few weeks over Cordero Patterson. So I think he has some potential there as well.
Yeah, he's really been um, getting the workload and actually producing when given the opportunity. And it's so hard to recommend, but J.K. Dobbins, he's getting about 15 opportunities a game, but it seems that he's always that one run away from breaking it, and he's looking good after his surgery. So there's always that chance as Pittsburgh's fighting to go 8-8, so Mike Tomlin can never have a losing season.
No, that's a good call. I also have, for a potential here, your guy Zonovan Knight for the Jets. Seattle does have one of the worst rushing defenses also, so there's some potential there for a guy that's probably lower on the UPX price scale to possibly break out against a bad defense.
Yeah. And you always have the potential of Dalvin Cook. Don't know what's going on with Dalvin this year, but he's getting the opportunities. It just hasn't panned out for him.
Yeah, every few games he has those explosions that would hit all these categories for you. But as you said, very, very unpredictable. But the cold weather game could up his usage here.
And what about ETN there, Jacksonville versus Houston?
He was popping up as well. Yeah, he has the potential to break those yards, and Houston looked pretty decent against the run lately. But yeah, he's got a lot of potential with not much competition there. And the one thing I was thinking about is I believe they're in the same weird scenario as the Titans, where they can afford to lose this week and not have it affect their playoff chances. So we'll see what they do there as the game wears on.
Yeah. And then any other running backs jump out to you?
No, that really covered everyone that I had start out there. I think, with the Antonio Gibson news, Brian Robinson is probably my favorite play.
Yeah, I agree. And then on to the pass catchers, which is your wide receivers and tight ends. Man, how about those New York Giants pass catchers?
Yeah, they're low end guys are coming on big time. They really stuck it to me in my fantasy league, as we said. And yeah, I have Isaiah Hodgins notched down as my sleeper here. He seems to have quickly developed a lot of chemistry with Daniel Jones, and has got some longer pass catches that'll hit that 20-yard mark. So
And,
I have him down as a sleeper. And then for my big name wide receivers, as I said, they're motivated to hit some records there in Minnesota. So I like Justin Jefferson as a high price. And along the same lines, I feel like A.J. Brown and the Gardner Minshew connection are kind of motivated to show that it's not just all Jalen Hurts. Those guys look really good together last week. And I think they could do something against the leaky New Orleans offense, or defense, rather.
yeah, I just caution with the challenge with the Giants playing Indianapolis is they do limit the long plays, so it would have to be a good yards after catch for that 20-yard reception. But he definitely has the potential to make that happen. Um, you got to go with Travis Kelsey. He's always destroyed Denver, and he's been kind of in a drought from touchdowns. It's been 5 weeks, so he needs to bring that back.
Yeah, he seems due for a big outburst. And yeah, on the tight end front, it looks like for San Francisco, the move to Brock Purdy at quarterback has really brought George Kittle back to life. Another
Yep.
injury's popping into my head there. Debo Samuel will not be playing this week, so
Nope,
that should
still out.
up the volume with George Kittle. And potential sleeper on the tight end side, Tyler Higbee for the Rams. Seems to have developed a connection with Baker Mayfield right off the bat. After having scored no touchdowns all year, he has 3 in the last 2 weeks. So he could be a possible sleeper for you there.
And same with Gerald Everett with Austin Eckler being ruled out. I could see them seeing a little more Gerald Everett action there in the flat and short distances.
Yeah, that makes sense. He did get a big old goose egg last week in fantasy, so it
Oh,
is
he
really,
did. Yes, he
yeah,
did.
really unpredictable. But yeah, the injuries should force some more targets his way.
Also looking at everything, the Sun God, he has a good opportunity there. There in Detroit, Amaron St. Brown. And then you mentioned AJ Brown. Um, Tampa Bay's pass catchers have been so quiet lately. Miami, they're without Tua, so I don't know where you. And they're playing New England, so I'm not sure. I don't want to touch Tyreek or Waddle there. It's just been a strange week.
Yeah, it is very weird. I wanted to key on those Miami pass catchers because New England is dealing with some injuries in the secondary with some of their cornerbacks, but also you have Teddy Bridgewater stepping in at quarterback, so it's really hard to sort that one out.
But the
Where the
nice. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you
No,
off
just
there.
where the advantage lies there. It's kind of going back and forth on that game.
But the benefit there, even going down to Teddy Bridgewater, you have 2 wide receivers that are dynamic after they touch the ball. So you don't have to throw it far downfield for Hill or Waddle. They can catch something and create something with the space they create early on. So is it really a downgrade?
Yeah, I'm not too sure. Also, it seems like the Pats are kind of imploding here a little bit. The vibes are pretty bad around the Pats, so I could see this possibly being a runaway. And as you said, with Waddle and Tyreek, all you need is a short pass, and those guys can do the rest. So I was pretty intrigued by Waddle. He almost made my list this week with the best touchdown dance in the league, I think, with the Waddle.
And then depending on if Christian Watson plays, I'm a Christian Watson fan there in Green Bay. He seems to have a
Yes.
connection with Aaron Rodgers, and he's got a good yards after the catch. So even though Dobbs is back, but Dobbs will probably see the tougher matchup if Watson plays. So I'd lean Watson as a sleeper there out of Green Bay.
Nice call. Nice call. And yeah, as I said, with the Vikings, it's always unpredictable. They seem to give up a lot of points. So, yeah, they should let the Packers stay close. So a lot of potential there, I think.
All right. Anything else before we move off the pass catchers?
No, I think that's all I have this week, sir.
All right. Defense. I just always
Yeah.
tough. Allowing 299 yards or less is a challenge in today's NFL, but it happens.
Yeah, I dug pretty deep. It's a lot of the usual suspects kind of top my list. Anybody jump out to you on defense this week?
I still have to figure out my technique for researching individual defensive players. Um, but overall, I did like Kansas City's defense against Denver, and it can backfire on you too. But, uh, you know, Chris Jones is a beast. So I always like his ability to get in there and disrupt the backfield. And then along with Frank Clark. So I like the pressure that they put on the quarterback there.
Yeah. These, if you're going for the four fire stats, just in general, I would say defense is probably the hardest place to really get it. Especially with the forced turnovers category, they're just so rare. Looking through the individual stats, there's very few guys. I think 3 leads the league for the season. Three forced fumbles.
Yeah.
I just a couple names that are, active tacklers with sack potential and things. Roquan Smith on Baltimore is always at the top, and they're going against Pittsburgh. So, their offense is always a little questionable with the rookie quarterback. And the same type of position, Hassan Reddick for the Eagles versus New Orleans. New Orleans offense is a little shaky, so he should be really active on the amount of tackles and possibly limiting them and getting a sack. I'm not sure of the UPX price, but kind of a sleeper I like this week is the rookie Kayvon Thibodeau for the Giants against the Colts. He's really been stepping up his productivity lately, so he could be an interesting play.
And then I do like Brian Burns from the Carolina Panthers. Brady has not looked like himself, and he might miss the playoffs for the first time in 100 years. So I do like Brian Burns' potential there.
Yeah, Carolina should be pretty motivated, so I agree with you with that. The fact that they can still make the playoffs is wild. And yeah, Brian Burns is one of those players that is not a household name, but is extremely talented and flies under the radar a bit.
And then Danielle Hunter for the Vikings also. I think he could get in there and well, that's into the linebackers, but still.
Yeah, I kind of group the D line and the linebackers together there. A lot of those guys were linebackers.
Yeah, and then depending on how they line up in the formations and the defensive call, they might actually be on the D line for a player or two.
Yes, these new style positions they're cooking up where they call people edge rushers. It's like used to be your defensive end or your outside linebacker. We've got all these new age terms, so those guys do float around. And then in the secondary, I sticking with Minnesota. I kind of like Harrison Smith against Green Bay. He's a bit of a ball hawk, a decent amount of interceptions this year, and also a good tackling safety. I think Von Bell could have some potential for the Bengals. As we've talked about before, Josh Allen's a little sloppy with the ball lately, so the potential for an interception is there. Although holding the team under 300 yards is probably not likely. And then my sleeper, Pro Bowler, one of my favorite names all league, the safety for the 49ers going against Las Vegas, who, as we said, they benched Derek Carr, so this defense could just run wild. Let's see how I do. Talanoa Hufanga, one of my favorites.
Pretty close. I think you nailed it, actually.
Yes.
I think you nailed it. I do like Rasul Douglas. He's a cornerback for the Green Bay Packers. You never know with Kirk Cousins. Sometimes he can turn it over, and other times he's pretty solid. But that's not a household name there. But he's doing a pretty decent job there this year.
Yeah, nice deep dive. Yeah, the Green Bay Packers secondary does have a lot more interceptions than I realized when looking at the stats. And as you said, the weather's going to be bad, and Kirk Cousins should be throwing a high volume and has a tendency to let it fly. So yeah, that's an interesting suggestion.
Yeah. All right. Anybody else on defense you want to talk about?
No, that about covers it. As I said, if you're looking for the 4-fire stats, I'd probably stick to offense. Defense is really a hard one to nail down, unless you're going for those points for your favorite team.
Yep. And the favorite segment of the show, snapping and kicking. I forgot to keep track of all the long snappers that I've picked so far. So as I look, I'm like, have I picked that one yet? And then we never said, can you pick them again? But it's not fun to repick somebody you already picked. But there's only so many long snappers to go around.
Yeah, I've been trying to dig deep. I was trying to explain to my wife that these guys have their own position. That's all they do. They just specialize in snapping the ball far, which is one of my favorite positions here, and lots of solid names. So yeah, who are you looking at here in the special teams department this week?
This week, I think I have to go with I was going to go with the Arizona Cardinals long snapper, and then the depth chart that I was looking at, that guy's on IR, and they don't have his backup listed. So if they don't have the backup listed, I know Upland doesn't have the person in the store. So because I thought with being on their third string quarterback and so on and so forth, that was where I was leaning. And then yeah. And then I was like, well, As I said, it just depends on how Jacksonville is going to play. So then I rolled on over to Jacksonville, and their long snapper was questionable. And then at that point in time, I'm like, I'm just going to go with James Winchester from the Kansas City Chiefs because they could get to a point where they're just going to kick field goals.
Nice, nice. James Winchester. Very solid name there. And he's snapping the ball to your guy Tommy Townsend, Pro Bowl selection to punter Tommy Townsend. Shout out to him.
But I don't see Tommy Townsend getting 6 punts in this game though, so he won't get the fire stats. But the long snapper, Tommy Townsend can boot the ball 50, 60 yards, so there is that potential.
Yeah, and we should have an asterisk next to that. I haven't been able to narrow that one down. I believe the punts are probably a little lower. I just was not able to find an actual memento that's been minted with a fire stat lower than 6 punts. So hopefully we'll zero in on that cutoff. I was in a similar mindset to you. I kind of zeroed in on the possibility of the Las Vegas offense sputtering quite a bit against that 49ers defense. So at long snapper, I went with Trent Sieg of the Raiders. And along those lines, I stuck with the punter also for the Raiders, AJ Cole. And that kicker this week, I like my guy, Young Ho Koo of the Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah, I do like at kicker, Matt Prater for the Cardinals. You should have some opportunities. They might stall out. And then you always got Justin Tucker, who will save the day for the Ravens as need be.
Yes, another Pro Bowl selection there in the AFC. Along with my guy from Tennessee, long snapper Morgan Cox made the Pro Bowl. So congrats to those guys.
Nice. Very nice. All right. That's what I have for this week. You have anything else before we get out of here for the week?
No. Good job again, sir. Deciphering this wild landscape that is the new NFL 18-game schedule. So, it's interesting and gives us a lot of homework. So hopefully we're able to help you guys out when navigating this. And I hope you have a great New Year's and beginning to the new year here.
Absolutely. Good luck at finding those 4-fire or multi-fire mementos in the shops. Look forward to week 18 and the craziness that will bring, and let us know in the comments what you want to see more of or what you want to see less of. And until next week, everybody be safe, have fun, and we'll see you in the metaverse.